Hello guys, this is Amol Khedkar. I welcome you to this video. Today I'm going to discuss this article that you see on your screen, which says jaw-dropping global crash in children being born. This is from the BBC News. Before we get started, please don't forget to subscribe to this channel because nobody else is going to give you detailed analysis of worldwide topics including geopolitics and demographics as well. So please don't forget to subscribe. So let's get started. I've covered this topic in my previous videos regarding the World in 2030 series. Many countries throughout the world are facing this demographic challenge, may it be Japan, Korea, Russia, even countries like China are into this. So, what exactly is this? The world is ill prepared for a global crash in children being born, which is said to have a jaw dropping impact on societies, say researchers. So women are not having enough children, and that's why the society is not able to replenish itself. Falling fertility rates mean nearly every country could have shrinking populations by the end of the century. So every country is going to have shrinking populations by the end of this century, and 23 nations, including Spain and Japan, are expected to see their populations half by 2100. Just imagine this: 23 nations, including Spain and Japan, their populations are going to be 50% of what they are right now by 2100. This is a very very important topic, and that's why there is also many videos on my channel where I discuss about this demographic challenge, including the one in Japan, in Russia, in Korea, in Europe, and even these kind of problems are surfacing in Brazil, Argentina, Mexico, even definitely in America, Canada, everywhere. So this is a very very important topic if you want to understand how the world functions. Countries will also age dramatically, with as many people turning 80 as there are being born. So the exact same amount of people will turn 80 every year. Uh, that number will be equal to the number of people that are being born. What is going on? The fertility rate, the average number of children a woman gives birth to, is falling. This is not just now, it has been falling for decades now. If the number falls below approximately 2.1, then the size of the population starts to fall. So 2.1 is the replacement birth rate. So every woman should have at least 2.1 children. So why they have the 0.1 added to this is because they just want to account for the children who die or children who don't make it to the adulthood. So that's why they have this threshold called 2.1 births per woman for the society to just replace itself. So you are not increasing the society, you are just replacing the society. So because there are two people who are involved in giving birth to a child, so every family should have at least two children just to replace the society. So if you want to grow the society, then definitely you need more children than 2 or 2.1. In 1950, women were having an average of 4.7 children in their lifetime. In 1950, women were having at least 4.7 children in their lifetime. Researchers at the University of Washington's Institute for Health Metrics and Evaluation showed the global fertility rate nearly half to 2.4 in 2017, and the study published in the Lancet projects it will fall below 1.7 by 2100. So this fertility rate became half than what it was in 1950 and 2017 to just 2.4, and by 2100 it is going to fall below 1.7. So women are having fewer children, as you can see here. Global fertility rate live births per woman. So from 1950 it was almost 4.7, and it is going to fall by 2050 2100. It is just going to keep on falling. As a result, the researchers expect the number of people on the planet to peak at 9.7 billion around 2064 before falling down to 8.8 billion by the end of the century. So many people were worried that we will face like a population explosion, but in my personal opinion, I don't think that is going to happen. The planet is going to peak at 9.7 billion around 2064, and that is mainly because of India, China, and Africa. And it will fall down to 8.8 billion by the end of the century. That's a pretty big thing. Most of the world is transitioning into natural population decline. So most of the world is transitioning into natural population decline. So women by themselves are not willing to have enough children. There are multiple reasons for it. Women are much career oriented nowadays. There are familial pressures. It's very very difficult to have kids nowadays because it's expensive. So there are many things, and that's why women are not having enough children. I think it's incredibly hard to think this through and recognize how big a thing this is. It's extraordinary. We will have to reorganize societies. This is really very true because there will not be enough tax paying people to take care of the elderly, and so the pension system will collapse. There will not be enough workforce, so people will have to be imported from outside. That's exactly what America, Canada, and most of these developed countries do, because they need people from outside to take care of their workforce. Why are fertility rates falling? What exactly is the reason for this? It has nothing to do with sperm count or the usual things that come to the mind when discussing fertility. It's not related to any of that. Instead, it is being driven by more women in education and work, as well as greater access to contraception, leading to women choosing to have fewer children. So, definitely, this is like a societal thing where women are themselves choosing not to have enough children. In many ways, falling fertility rates are a success story. So, what has happened is that I've made a detailed analysis of this in my videos about South Korea and Japan. Um, there is this insane idea about radical feminism, and that has penetrated into the societies of many countries, and that's why women don't want to be clutched into the rut of just raising children and then doing all those things. They just want to live the so-called free life, and that's why they don't even want to have children. There are many women in South Korea and in Japan that are never engaged in any romantic relationship for their entire life, and they don't even want to do any of that. So yeah, it's a very sad thing, to be honest with you, and this is going to have consequences in the near future. Which countries will be the most affected? Japan's population is projected to fall from a peak of 128 million in 2017 to less than 53 million by the end of the century. Japan is the oldest country in the entire world. I have made multiple videos on this channel, so you will understand what I mean. So 128 million in 2017 to less than 53 billion by the end of the century. So almost half. 50% of Japanese population will die off. Italy is expected to see an equally dramatic population crash from 67 million to 28 million over the same time frame. They are two of 23 countries, which also include Spain, Portugal, Thailand, and South Korea, expected to see their population more than half. That is jaw dropping. This is very important and very true, that this is really very insane statistic, to be honest with you, because your population is literally going to half. And as I've pointed out in my previous videos, immigrants will also not have any incentive to come to these countries. So that is just going to exacerbate the decline of the Western civilization in a very drastic fashion. China, currently the most populous nation in the world, is expected to peak at 1.4 billion in 4 years' time before nearly halving to 732 million by 2100. India will take its place. So that is also true. I have pointed out in my video about China and what China will look like in 2030, that China's population will definitely start declining in just 2 to 3 years, and the process of it has already started, because China had that infamous one child policy, and India will take its place. But also India will peak at around 2060 or 2065, and then it will start declining. The UK is predicted to peak at 75 million in 2063 and fall to 71 million by 2100. So UK also, the fertility rate is already below 2.1 in UK. But then why it is growing then? Because of immigration, nothing else. So, but as I said, once immigrants do not find incentive to come to these kind of so-called developed countries, the population will start declining after that. So how populations of selected countries might change 2017 to 2100. So China, just look at the population of China now. So China population will literally going to half by 2100. India will also see decline of almost 25% by 2100. Nigeria, look at this. Nigeria's population will literally double or triple, almost triple than what it is now in 2017. Because why? Africa, the fertility rate is very high. It's almost 6 to 7 births per woman in countries in Africa. Then in the US, it's almost the same. Why? Because US just depends upon immigration from other countries, and that's why it does something like this. Then in Japan is almost half now. However, this will be a truly global issue, with 183 out of 195 countries having a fertility rate below the replacement level. Why is this a problem? You might think this is great for the environment. A smaller population would reduce carbon emissions as well as deforestation for farmland. You might think that smaller population is good for the economy, but that's really not the case. That would be true except for the inverted age structure, more old people than young people, and all the uniformly negative consequences of an inverted age structure. So there's something called population pyramid, and population pyramid works properly when that diagram looks like a pyramid. But when it starts looking like an inverted pyramid, then your entire society collapses, and that is exactly what is happening in Japan, in Italy, in South Korea, and even in China. So that's why this is such a big problem. The study projects the number of under fives will fall from 681 million in 2017 to 401 million in 2100. So the number of under fives will fall from 681 million in 2017 to 401 million in 2100. And the number of over 80-year-olds will soar from 141 million in 2017 to 866 million in 2100. Just comprehend this growth in the number of over 80-year-olds. It will soar from 141 million in 2017 to 866 million in 2100. Professor Murray adds, it will create enormous social change. It makes me worried because I have an 8-year-old daughter and I wonder what the world will be like. Who pays tax in a massively aged world? This is a very, very important thing. As I've pointed out in my previous videos, that why do these so-called developed countries like Canada, America, Europe, Australia need immigrants? Because they have declining populations. That's why they need immigrants for. And why do they need young people? Because young people are the ones who pay the taxes. That's why, as you can see here, who pays tax in a massively aged world? And tax is something that the government runs on. So that's why you need these taxes. Who pays for healthcare for the elderly? Who looks after the elderly? Will people still be able to retire from work? Right now in America or in Canada, people are working literally until 80, even 85. They are working until the day they die, because there are no retirement savings, and the government is just raising the retirement age as years go by because they don't have enough tax money. How does the government function? They get taxes from the people who are in the working age group, but that number has started declining because people are not having enough children. So this is like a massive problem. We need a soft landing. So, what are there any solutions? What are the solutions for these? Countries, including the UK, have used migration to boost their population and compensate for falling fertility rates. So, UK, America, all of these countries are just using immigration for this purpose, and that's why I think immigration is not because these countries want you to succeed. It is in their own benefit. So they have their own selfish interest in bringing immigrants from outside so that they can contribute to their economy and grow their economy and contribute taxes to their economy. However, this stops being the answer once nearly every country's population is shrinking. Extremely important. When nearly every country's population is shrinking, then this stops being the answer. This is very true. We will go from a period where it's a choice to open borders or not to frank competition for migrants, as there won't be enough. Very, very important statement. We will grow from the period of whether it's a choice to open borders or not. Right now, many countries want to open borders. Some countries don't want to open borders. Trump says that he wants to close everything. He says that America first. But, at that stage, there will not be a question of whether to open or close borders. It will literally be like a frank competition for migrants, as there won't be enough. So countries will compete for migrants by 2050 or 2100. Some countries have tried policies such as enhanced maternity and paternity leave, free childcare, financial incentives, and extra employment rights, but there is no clear answer. Even in Canada, these kind of things are happening, but even then, the fertility rate is dropping. Sweden has dragged its fertility rate up from 1.7 to 1.9, but other countries that have put significant effort into tackling the baby bust have struggled. Singapore still has a fertility rate of around 1.3. Professor adds, I find people laugh it off. They can't imagine it could be true. They think women will just decide to have more kids. If you can't find a solution, then eventually the species disappears, but that's a few centuries away. The researchers warn against undoing the progress on women's education and access to contraception. Responding to population decline is likely to become an overriding policy concern in many nations, but must not compromise efforts to enhance women's reproductive health or progress on women's rights. What about Africa? The population of sub-Saharan Africa is expected to treble in size to more than 3 billion people by 2100. The population of sub-Saharan Africa, which is the Africa below the Sahara Desert, that is going to become 3 times than what it is right now, to almost 3 billion people by 2100. And the study says Nigeria will become the world's second biggest country with a population of 791 million. Professor adds, we will have many more people of African descent in many more countries as we go through this. global recognition of the challenges around racism are going to be all the more critical if there are large numbers of people of African descent in many countries. Why the 2.1 fertility rate threshold? You might think the number should be 2.0. Two parents have two children, so the population stays the same size. But even with the best healthcare, not all children survive to adulthood. Also, babies are ever so slightly more likely to be male. It means the replacement figure is 2.1 in developed countries. Nations with higher childhood mortality also need a higher fertility rate. So as I told you at the start of this video, why is there a 2.1 fertility rate and not 2.0? Because of these reasons. What do experts say? Professor Ibrahim Abubakar, University College London, said, if these predictions are even half accurate, migration will become a necessity for all nations and not an option. Extremely important. Right now, politicians like Trump and other, like Boris Johnson, they are all saying that we will close our borders, we will put our countries first, but at that time, migration will become a necessity and not an option. To be successful, we need a fundamental rethink of global politics. The distribution of working age populations will be crucial to whether humanity prospers or withers. Just understand the last statement over here, the distribution of working age populations. As I said, why do these countries need immigrants? Because they need working age population. That's why, they need these kind of, young people to contribute to their economies. So, this is my analysis of this article. If you liked my analysis, please don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to my channel for more videos like these. Thank you. Have a good day. Bye bye.